Hey, we are TentacleMan Studios, and this is how we made our first project in UEFN. Once we felt we had a solid concept, we moved on to making the game design document and figuring out some of the details. We started by breaking what we needed to work on into sections and gathering references for various level ideas we had. One of the main locations we wanted to use was Tilted Towers, but we wanted to make sure it flowed like all the other areas, so we made a very rough diagram of how players would travel through the city and what areas we blocked off. We also made diagrams for the tunnel section and the Old Town, but these were even more simple. It is important when working in a team to make sure you all have the same general idea of what is being made, to avoid confusion and arguments. So even simple diagrams like these can go a long way. We also use the document as a way to keep track of all of our ideas, such as what kind of gameplay each section will have, what weapons will be in each area. Our game design document helped us a lot, and I would highly recommend you make one if you have an idea for a map or are working on a map right now.
For the map, we wanted to take a more open approach to zombies, like Left 4 Dead, instead of a more closed environment like COD Zombie. We still took inspiration from COD, but mostly from Left 4 Dead, or at least how I remember it. When decorating the environment, I looked at how other media like Resident Evil and Left 4 Dead depict apocalyptic cities, and tried going for that, but also trying to have it make sense in the Fortnite style. For the prison, we had got some feedback at first that it was too empty, which makes sense because we did just kind of put the prison in just like the prison asset without really changing it much. So I added some broken walls and just a bunch of boxes, barricades, etc. to give it more life. For a lot of it, that's really what I did, was just add a bunch of debris and junk all over the place, break walls, and make it all apocalyptic and stuff. For the Old Town, I just took inspiration from like Red Dead for the idea of an old western town. There weren't a ton of assets that fit the Wild West theme that I had in my mind, but enough to make it work, I think. Another thing that took a lot of iterations was a layout of weapons, ammo, and other resources. It took a lot of playtesting to get what we feel is a good flow of receiving resources and also having areas where players are limited and tested on those resources. This was my first real attempt at level design and environment design, and I feel like I've learned a lot from it.
When it came to making the zombie system I wanted, I was a little lost at first. So naturally I went to YouTube, where I found a tutorial that was fairly close to what I wanted, that the YouTuber Gronto had made. The system uses a zone to tell if there are zombies alive, and a counter to track how many have been eliminated, so it can stop the spawners once you have reached the amount needed for the wave. However, the one he made was for zombie maps that go on indefinitely, and I wanted the rounds to stop after a certain point, so I added an extra score manager to track each round completion and to destroy all the spawners once the rounds are complete. I also wanted more control over what creatures would spawn, but you can only select one specific enemy type per spawner, so I decided to group them together. This allowed me to choose what enemies I wanted to spawn, how many of them per wave, and how frequent the waves would be. Originally I was going to hide the extra spawners, but there was a bug that wouldn't allow you to make the spawners invisible, so I ended up grouping them together, and I think it looks pretty cool. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of the base round system, make sure to check out Gronto's video.
Working with UEFN comes with a lot of limitations, especially when all the small amount of game development experience that we've had so far before was only in Unity. There's a lack of full creative control, I guess, with UEFN, with some stuff like UI and certain properties we can't change, like on the weapons or the zombies. Of course, with limitations comes other types of creativity and coming up with workarounds. Some of our workarounds could have definitely been better if we had more knowledge of UEFN. At times I would be working on the map and look what others have done, and I couldn't even begin to wrap my head around how you would even do that when I struggled to figure out some of the little stuff in UEFN. Obviously, it's just an experience and knowledge difference, but I think a lot of those games are so cool and inspiring that other creators are able to do so much with so little.
Often when making games, you will forget about all the little details necessary to make the experience feel fluid. Playtesting can help you find issues and learn what features need to be added. We made sure to keep track of all the issues we noticed while playing so that we could address them before getting caught up in the next thing. The majority of playtesting was done by our team, but we also had a few people test the game and give feedback. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we got was to add more player guidance. Initially, we decided not to at all because we thought it was unnecessary, but the total lack of it led to many people being completely lost and unsure of where to go. So we added lots of HUD messages and beacons throughout the map to make sure the player always had some idea of where they should be going. And since we had a different setup for the zombies in each section of our map, we had to do lots of playtesting with different settings to get the results we wanted. Playtesting was a core component of how we made our game and helped us address issues as they came up. so I highly recommend you playtest every step of the development cycle as well. One thing we learned about playtesting was that when you make a private version, it'll make it so that anyone you have as a playtester can test the various private versions you publish throughout the project. Because we didn't know this, we waited until the end of the development cycle to start getting playtesters. If we had done this sooner, we may have been able to speed up the process of refining the map. This project also helped me learn a lot about the various devices that Fortnite has to offer and how to use them. Devices like the Mutator Zone, the Tracker, and Score Manager were the core pillars of our gameplay for this map, and have lots of use cases. However, the most important thing I learned about devices is how they send and receive signals, and some of the best practices, like making sure you don't have anything repeatedly sending signals when there is no need for it, as it can break your map due to server limitations. A few of the smaller things we learned are that you can make the barrier device invisible by removing the material, you can make landscape materials transition better by using the noise brush, and using Alt and Shift when moving things around can greatly improve your workflow. Another thing that I learned while working on this project is that you can duplicate a group of devices and maintain the connections, so you don't have to go through the process of setting them up every time. One other cool trick we learned is that you can take materials from one object and apply them to another. However, we learned this pretty late into the project and we didn't get many chances to implement it. While these small things we learned are definitely helpful, one of the parts of the process where we had to learn the most was publishing. As I mentioned before, publishing privately is very different than actually releasing your project. When we went to officially publish our project, we were rejected in the IARC section multiple times. While we are unsure if it was because of the title or the gameplay where you get chased by zombies, we do know that if you want to be on the safe side, make sure you select yes on includes horror elements when submitting a zombie map. And while we can't say for sure that all maps need this is what helped us finally get through the publishing process.
With this being our first game project working together on UEFN, and working together in general, there were a lot of hurdles we had to get over and a lot of things we could improve on. This was a massive learning experience for both of us. We have definitely grown stronger as developers after doing it. Tilted Terrors is nothing crazy, it's a simple zombie survival map in Fortnite, but to us it is our first in a hopefully long line of projects together at TentacleMan Studios, and as friends together making games. While we didn't get Tilted Terrors out during our initial October release window, we were still glad we got something out and are excited to make more. We thank you for watching this little devlog type thing and supporting TentacleMan Studios. It means a lot to us. After this, we plan on working on our next map in UEFN of TentacleMan Studios and continue to work towards completing our education in game development. We hope you'll stick around and look out for our next project.